Why didn't the Celtics go after Dejounte Murray? He was available. I've got an answer for you. And are there any pieces to pick after that Atlanta Hawks San Antonio Spurs trade? A lot to talk about right here, heading into free agency right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Boston, baby, we do what you can't. Locked on number 18, Tatum and Brown, J-team, step back. We gon' wet that and slay teams. Of course, the Celtics, who else could it be? Screaming like KG with the Larry O.B. Karalis above average, assessing the team status. Best daily pod, no cap, salary matching. Clutch like Bird the DJ, keep John on replay. Prime time, dapping up the truth on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. B.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast. Thank you for making this show part of your daily routine. I am here for you Monday through Friday, through free agency, through the offseason, and just dropping free podcasts like you wouldn't believe. Every Monday through Friday. It's available everywhere you get your podcast. It's free on YouTube. You can watch the show if you prefer to watch the show. Come on by. Would love to have you. I'm John Karalis. I cover the Celtics for Boston Sports Journal. I've written a book called The Boston Celtics All-Time All-Stars, and I was one of the media voters for the 75th Celtics anniversary team. We're talking free agency. This show, when you listen to this show, this particular show, we might already know that the Celtics did something. As of right now, the Celtics have done nothing. But they are very interested in doing a great many things, including Danilo Gallinari, which we may talk about later. We will talk about later. We'll talk about maybe some of the things the Celtics could have done, and we're going to talk about it with a guy with a nice big Italian mustache. Tom Westerholm, which you grew. No, never mind. What's going on, Tom?
I guess I hadn't thought of it in Italian terms, but I'm doing good, man. I'm ready to talk some free agency basketball.
Tom, I cannot wait for Kentavious Caldwell-Pope to be a Celtic.
I was gonna say I'm like a little bit concerned to like say anything because like I feel like as soon as we say anything on this podcast, it's just gonna not happen immediately.
So if for some reason you haven't heard anybody, as soon as we drop this podcast, like the next morning, before I got a chance to like tweet it out, and I put KCP on the thumbnail, a whole big thing, and he got traded to Denver. And Denver actually wants him. And These are the perils. These are the perils of trying to say, okay, because I feel as a guy that's creating content, I'm not going to be reactive. I'm going to be proactive. I'm going to throw names out there. And I said, okay, I'm settling it. Yesterday's podcast, I spent a significant amount of time saying, Tom, this is why I make this case. I say KCP. And it was like, yeah, okay, that's fine. It's a decent enough argument. And the Denver Nuggets go, yeah, that is a good argument. We want him. We're going to get him.
Yeah, give me.
Give me him. We want him. Give me. Which, if nothing else,
incidentally came on the heels of you being like, okay, we're going to talk about Alec Burks. And then me being like, well, actually, literally 3 seconds ago, Alec Burks, we were
going to talk about Alec Burks as a potential guy. And you're like, nope, he just got traded. So I said, okay, fine. We'll talk about KCP. And he got traded. Yep. So I have to talk in Pig Latin? We have to talk in like cryptic, like the old video games when they didn't have a license. Los Angeles player number 23.
Anillo de Alinari.
Yeah. Right. I got to speak in Woj tweeting not to piss off his bosses kind of terms.
The Celtics should be zeroed in on.
Right. Exactly. Hey, by the way, today's show is brought to you by Arcade 1UP. Locked On Celtics is partnering with Arcade 1UP to give away 3 free NBA JAM Shaq machines. That's right, 3. These are the guys known for making incredible retro 3/4 scale at-home arcade games like Pac-Man, Golden Tee, and more. Enter to win on arcade1up.com/locked-on. That's arcade1up.com/locked-on for your chance to win one. All right, so as we are now situated, we have to turn our attention to we have to go somewhere else. Let's start with this, Tom. Dejounte Murray was traded, and this opens up a significant number of possibilities for around the league. Whenever a team trades a guy, especially like this with the Spurs, there are repercussions. There's shockwaves, and the vultures, all of the scavengers come in and start to say, "Oh, well, let's pick away." You mentioned Keldon Johnson. Everybody's like, "Oh, let's get this guy. Let's get that guy." If they're selling, we're buying. What can we get? But I want to start with this. I want to stop this kind of. I don't want to say before it started because it's already started, but I want to nip it right now. Why didn't the Celtics get Dejounte Murray before? Argument. People are now looking at the past through the lens of the Celtics have made the finals. They fell 2 games short, and saying, well, I would have rather had Dejounte Murray than Derrick White. We might have won the final. We might have won the championship. You have to, and I don't really want to push, and don't normally push it this hard, but I'm telling everybody, you have to remember that at the trade deadline last year, when this move was made, circumstances were different. And the Celtics weren't giving up 3 first-round picks. If that was the asking price, let's just pretend that was the asking price. They weren't giving up 3 first-round picks on Dejounte Murray as hey, this guy could get us over the hump and get a championship. Because at the trade deadline, the Celtics were only just starting to turn things around. They were only just a few games above 500. They weren't a championship team. At that point, Al Horford was still saying, we just want to get above the play-in tournament. Yep. That was a much, much different team. And the reason why the Derrick White trade was structured the way it was, that 2028 pick way down the road, is because the Celtics wanted to maintain being able to trade 3 alternating years due to the Stepien rule and get a couple of pick swaps, because they thought they might still need to, in this summer, make a big swing. Circumstances changed since then, but the circumstances were much, much different back then.
Yep. No, that's exactly right. And not only that, I mean, I think there's always so much danger in the whole argument of like, well, why didn't the Celtics do, or why didn't the Celtics offer this at the time? Like, Dejounte Murray probably wasn't like super available at the time. Like, I don't think.
Also true, right?
I don't think the Spurs may have been kind of looking at like, kind of starting to tear things down, but like Dejounte Murray is also a bigger star than Derrick White. Like, he's even at the time, like, he was like the more promising guy, and like that's not a guy I feel like you trade before the deadline unless you get like a no questions asked offer, which, the Spurs kind of got right now with this Hawks deal. I mean, it's a lot of draft capital they just brought in. But like, even so, I think that's a guy that you wait to trade until the offseason. You don't necessarily get rid of a guy like that at the deadline. So, I think it's multifaceted. And look, I think Dejounte Murray definitely, like a more star power than Derrick White. But I also think that like Derrick White is a pretty good basketball player. People are forgetting that he came over at the deadline. There's a lot to be happy about, a lot to be excited about with that guy. He's going to be a pretty good player. And, I think people can kind of calm down with that a little bit there too. Also, not for nothing, the Celtics probably didn't want to give up that much draft capital because, like we talked about, literally yesterday, this is a team that is very close, right? This is not a team that in every pick that you trade now is a pick that you can't trade later if there is an unaddressed hole on your roster. So you don't necessarily want to go out and trade 18 picks for one guy, even if that guy's really good, just because like then if there's an injury or if one guy decides to leave and go somewhere else, that's a pick that you can't use in the future. So, I think a lot of reasons that the Celtics traded for Derrick White. Also, Celtics really like Derrick White. Like they made that pretty clear that was a guy that they were specifically targeting. So let's give that a chance to develop and see what happens.
Right. So like, that's probably the better starting point. Let's give the Derrick White thing a chance to work. Yeah. And then we can go back. But like everything you said is correct. Dejounte Murray, I think at that point, the choice was between the two. And they might have just been saying, like, okay, let's see what Murray can do on his own.
Yep.
Let's see where we are. And now, okay, I think the Spurs are just going to go to say, all right, we're going to pivot. We're going to say, all right, we're just going to tank.
Yep.
And for anybody that says, well, the Spurs tank, the Spurs, my friend, they don't tank. My response would be, how the hell do you think they got Tim Duncan?
Yeah, they
like,
tanked.
That's exactly what
egregiously
did. And then what's the most amazing thing is that they only just now kind of really have to tank again.
Yeah.
That's the most amazing thing. And you can argue, hey, they probably should have tanked a little bit sooner. But the fact is that carried them way over into 2022. And like, this is really the first chance of like, all right, fine. So,
well, and I mean, they time it so well because they did get Tim Duncan, who was, the right guy to start tanking for, obviously. And now, the guy that they're tanking for is Victor Wembanyama. Well, yeah, I'm 80% sure how to pronounce his name. I apologize, but I have watched a lot of his highlights, and he does look like quite the stud. So, if the Spurs do this again, it really will be just a very impressive kind of timing to choose their moments, to really pick their moments to go full out egregious tanking with starter Josh Primo and everyone else.
Spurs are the Ned Flanders of the NBA. They just they just play by the rules, and all of a sudden, then you just say, hey, God, it's us. We're tanking now. I'm like, yeah, no, sure, no problem. You want the number one?
Yeah, you spent 20 years not tanking. You can have this, guys.
You tanked the absolute least amongst all of you. So yeah, here you go. We're sick of making the Orlando Magic get good picks. Like, you guys get a shot. So, all right. So that's kind of like the precursor to this. There are names coming out of this that either the Spurs now and the Hawks, the two teams involved in the big Wednesday trade, are now like, well, there are a lot of names here. Yeah. So let's just start naming names that I think the Celtics could use and won't get. We'll do that after
let's name some guys.
Let's name some guys and piss people off, because I think right now, judging by my mentions in YouTube and on Twitter, people are desperately asking me to not name guys, because when I do, the Celtics don't get them. We'll talk about that in a minute. First, let's talk about Arcade 1-Up and NBA Jam, because NBA Jam is back. Arcade 1-Up is the leader in home retro arcade games. I need to pull some strings at the Locked On Network. I need Arcade 1-Up to outfit a serious man cave for me. That might cause me to lose significant ground in relationships. But regardless, NBA Jam is worth it. People are obsessed with NBA Jam. I am as well. And I'm thrilled to tell you that you can once again play hoops on NBA Jam. Jump clear across the court, set the ball on fire. It's one of the first sports games to ever feature real and digitized NBA licensed teams. You know how it goes. No fouls, no free throws, and now no quarters required. You can compete with friends and family through all new Wi-Fi leaderboards, making you more connected than ever. Pre-order now from arcade1up.com. That's arcade, the number 1, up.com for estimated early September ship date. Arcade 1-Up is the place for fun. They've got even more classics like NBA Jam's not enough. How about Golden Tee, Mortal Kombat, and many others? They're just starting at just $399. Check this out. They're giving away NBA JAM Shaq Edition to Locked On listeners. We're giving away 3. Enter for a chance to win a game console at your man cave at arcade1up.com/lockedon. That's arcade, the number 1up.com/lockedon. You've got until July 8th. Time is running out to win the NBA Jam Shaq Edition. Don't miss out. Enter today. Who are you going to play with? It better be me. Invite me over. Come on. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Check out Locked On NBA. Make that your second listen every day. I host on Wednesdays with Jake Madison. Rotating hosts all week. Trying to make sense of the NBA free agency. We're doing a special NBA free agency thing. I'll be a part of that as well. Let's bring Tom Westerholm back in. And so Danilo Gallinari, Chris Webber's favorite name to say, is likely to be bought out by or waived by the Spurs. Now you have Lonnie Walker, who's out. Danilo Gallinari, who's going to be out. Other Spurs, Atlanta Hawks players, Kevin Huerter, John Collins. What do you think about any of those guys? I'll start with this. Gallo is reportedly on the Celtics list.
Yes.
Which is interesting to me because it does sort of kind of say, well, he's not exactly a defender.
Yeah.
So it does kind of, but do you think this is just going to be because he's waived a veteran minimum and you say, hey, look, if you can get him on a veteran minimum, then you still maintain your identity and you just have a potentially big time shooter on the minimum?
Yeah, I mean, it is funny because there's also, the report that, Sam Hauser is, the Celtics are looking at bringing him in. So, the Celtics do seem to be kind of getting ready to bring in some questionable defenders who can really shoot the thing. I think to me, the most interesting name is Kevin Huerter. He has kind of been like my kind of, it's kind of fluid, but kind of my top target for that Fournier TPE. I think he's obviously a really good shooter. Can do a bunch of different things offensively. We talked about him yesterday a little bit, so he is kind of the name that sticks out to me. And also just a guy who I think could really flourish in a bench role. Ironically, kind of not dissimilar to Bogdanovic in Atlanta. I think he could play that role very well on a very good team. So he's kind of my guy that I really look at. But it is interesting, like you said, that the Gallinari seems to he's a guy who just keeps coming up, and it's funny to me in part because we've seen kind of areas where Brad deviates and doesn't deviate from Danny Ainge's strategies. But one thing, if he brings in Gallinari, one thing that he definitely will go in on in the same way Danny did is guys who have lit the Celtics up in the past, right?
Yes.
Give me the Greg Monroe, give me the Gallinari. I'm surprised the Celtics didn't go after Ish Smith for that exact same reason.
Ish Smith joke. I was just gonna make that joke.
Just keep bringing in the guys who torch the Celtics. It's a bold strategy.
I normally would be like, oh, Gallo, I don't know. He's obviously a scorer. He's obviously a decent scorer. And as he is older, but he just still seems to, I think maybe because of the injuries and some of the time away, he's maybe a little bit fresh. But I mean, look, he still scored almost 12 points. He shot 38% from three last year. He's been a 40% 3-point shooter for a few years now. So, hey, look, if you're desperate for somebody to pass the ball to in the corner, and the option is, hey, look, we're down, and you need somebody to hit shots. Gallo, I mean, could do worse.
Yeah,
could do worse than Gallo. And on a minimum deals,
right. That's the thing,
are criticism free.
Yeah.
You can be like, oh, why this guy? Because he took the minimum. Yeah. I mean, minus Carmelo Anthony is that's an asterisk to my rule. If they signed Carmelo Anthony, I'd be like, all right, done. Goodbye. I'm going to try to take over Locked On Pacers. I'm done. I can't do this. But I think generally speaking, the minimum deal is fine.
Yep.
You can always cut the guy if it doesn't work. If he's not playing, you can trade him, you can cut him, you whatever, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't cost you anything. So I still think the Celtics will have their TPEs in place. They'll have their mid-level exception in place. They'll still have all of those other tools in place. So if Gallo shakes free, then fine. Do any of those other guys interest you? Because I'm getting questions anytime somebody shakes free, it's like, oh, is that a guy? Like Lonnie Walker. Right. Lonnie Walker could be a guy. not like if the Celtics are looking for guys who are like 7 or 8s in every category, I think Walker is like a 6 in every category, 5 or 6. And like, can he get up to those? Maybe in a different situation, is he a change of scenery guy? I don't know. You mentioned Herter. You tweeted about Keldon Johnson, which I think that's just somebody you keep.
I generally agree. I mostly tweeted that because I was like paging through the roster. I was like, I wonder how serious they are about tearing things down. But I think it makes sense to keep
one of your
guys.
It's a fair point.
And actually, the funny thing is about that tweet is that the reason I was like, oh man, well, they're getting rid of young guys. And then I looked at Dejounte Murray's age and I was like, oh, like he's a full 3 years older than Keldon Johnson.
Yeah.
I thought they were similar ages, but yeah.
It's funny because I thought the same thing. Like you think of Murray and even Derrick White as like guys who are like 23. No, they're like 25, 26, like 27. So I don't know if anybody else shakes free that. Like Herter's certainly a potential guy. Gallo on the minimum is fine. I don't know. I don't think there's any way to get Collins. I just don't see that.
No, I don't either. I don't think. I think the things that you would have to give up clearly are not going to make any sense for that.
No, even if it's for Horford straight up, like I still okay. I don't know. Horford to me is such a key. Like he is the key to what the Celtics did all season. Without Al Horford, I don't think this finals run happens.
Yeah, I agree.
Like not even close, because he's the guy that allows Robert Williams to play off the ball. He's the guy who allows, like, for the spacing and all of that. So I don't know. I think that I don't know how many guys that there are to pick from in the aftermath of this, but we're vultures, man. When there's a trade, everybody just kind of goes down and is like, is there any meat out of this that I can pick at? What else can we get?
And then you get fans of the teams that are upset with you, right? Like, because I had a bunch of Spurs fans who were like, buzz off. We're going to go Keldon Johnson. Okay, just asking a question.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, let's take a second here. Let's come back. Maybe we can answer some questions here from the mailbag. When we come back, first, let's talk about our health, eating right, and Sakara, where feeling your best starts with what you eat. Sakara helps you live a healthy, balanced lifestyle and truly enjoy it. They've got delicious, plant-rich, transformational nutrition that builds a foundation for living in your best body. I know a lot of people, especially me, look, I'm about to turn 49. So I'm looking for a change in my diet. I'm looking for a way to take this step into, I hate to say it, but the next phase of my life. I'm not the kid that I used to be. I'm not the basketball player that I used to be, where I was burning stuff and I could eat 2 pizzas and still feel fine because I was burning all those calories. I need a better lifestyle. Sakara is a way to do that. So Sakara is a wellness company anchored in food as medicine, on a mission to nourish your body through the power of plants. Sakara gives you the tools to transform your life with organic, ready-to-eat meals delivered right to your door and functional wellness essentials. Their nutritionally designed chef-crafted breakfast, lunch, and dinners are made with powerful plant-rich ingredients, helping you boost your energy, support your digestion, curb your sugar cravings. It's a big deal. Get your skin glowing. Why not? I'm on camera. I want my skin to glow. Plus, it's all delivered right to you, ready to eat. Sakara's functional, plant-rich wellness essentials help you create a body you love living in. That's a mental thing, too. You want to be able to feel good living in that body. From their best-selling Metabolism Super Powder to the Foundation, their daily supplement packs, Sakara's products are designed to support your wellness goals anytime, anywhere. Right now, Sakara is offering you 20% off their first order when you go to sakara.com/lockedon20 or enter code lockedon20 on checkout. That's Sakara, Sakara, sakara.com/lockdown20 to get 20% off your first order. sakara.com/lockdown20. All right, Tom, I've been trying to get to mailbag questions. This off season, I said it yesterday, it's throwing off my entire timing. It's throwing off my entire cadence. I'm not used to having to just say, okay, that's the season. Oh, here's the draft. Oh my God, here's free agency. So I haven't been able to get to some of these questions, but let's just start with this from Zach P, who asks, with the constant thought that your star could leave you in free agency, is there a thought to try and bring in another potential star as an insurance policy if Jaylen was to leave? So we're talking about building around the edges, and we talked the other day about the potential Kevin Durant for Jaylen Brown. And one of the things you said was that's if Jaylen wants to stay, and we're assuming that Jaylen wants to stay. But what if he decides, I don't like all this trade talk. I don't like the way everything's going. I do feel underappreciated. Maybe the Tony Dobbins thing that we talked about yesterday pans out and he goes to Utah and we say, oh no, what's left? Should the Celtics kind of be pursuing the if Jaylen leaves other star scenario?
Yeah, I think if Tony Dobbins gets picked up by the Jazz, I think the Celtics should immediately offer Jaylen Brown for Donovan Mitchell just to throw everything into yeah, no, I mean, it's an interesting question. I think it's kind of that feels like just kind of like an off-season question, right? Like one where you're like, I wonder about this hypothetical, because like the easy answer is I think is usually the right one, right? It's like no, like
right,
like keep the team that went to the finals. But it is interesting because it does kind of hammer home like everything in the NBA is so precarious and it's impossible to prepare for every scenario. And one little thing can fell what looks like a team that could be really good for a long time. So it is an interesting question. Like what would the fallout of Jaylen Brown wanting to leave be? Like, could the Celtics get a fair deal for him if he gave them enough warning to let him get traded? Like, because if he leaves, like, there's still probably not going to be that much space to work with, in terms of pure free agency, right? So,
yeah,
it does get very complicated. I can see the vision for it. I think the problem with that particular scenario is the amount of stuff you would have to give up would make it very hard to kind of build a good team around those three players, like around Jaylen, Jayson, and Superstar X or All-Star X or whatever. And in doing that, you might guarantee that one of your All-Stars wants to leave because you might create a team that just isn't that good. I mean, look at, some of these other super teams that have just kind of fallen apart because they didn't have enough pieces around the edges. Right. So I think that's where you have to be careful. But yeah, I mean, it's life in the NBA is it's a tough road sometimes. It's tough to navigate.
It's a constant high wire act. Mm-hmm. It's a constant. It's Red Panda, except every time you're kicking up bulls, it's players, and you got to hope you land all of them on your head. If you don't,
and no GM is actually Red Panda, so they're just like throwing balls all over the place.
Yeah, it's just balls on the everywhere, just balls everywhere. The real act is just getting a couple to stay on your head. It's tough. Like, I understand.
Shit, we dropped Terry Rozier. Damn it.
Yeah. There is a question here. I was going to throw out the Brandon question. Would you trade for Scary Terry? I just want to throw it to you because I know you'd be like, yes. Yes.
Do it yesterday. Do whatever it takes.
Jaylen and Jayson for Terry Rozier. Yes, done. How many picks do you need? No, but I understand the question. It's just not possible to run a team that way. Yeah. You have to trust that you're running a team that is a place where the player wants to play, that the teammates, the people he goes to work with every day are people he wants to be there with, that the organization has his back, supports him, all of that stuff. And then the media stuff is what it is.
Yep.
And if you can't handle some like, honestly, people talk about Boston media, and maybe I'm biased, but I don't think it's like it's that harsh. But I'm only in the post games. Like, I don't think anybody's like crawling up his butt trying to like ask like the worst questions. It's the sports talk radio and Twitter.
So I think I actually don't think sports talk radio affects these guys as much as we kind of think that it does, because the thing about sports talk radio is that none of them listen to it. Like, none of these guys are driving down the pike listening to 98.5.
They get tagged on Twitter.
Yes. So it's Twitter, and it's not actually, it's not Boston media to me. I think it is the fact that national media talks about Boston sports a lot. I think it's that. I think it's those two things. Because when national media talks about, Boston sports, it is very like, they're a lot less, when we talk about Boston sports, a lot of times we're a lot more careful, right? Because we know that like, like for you, it's like, like the word's going to trickle back to this guy I was talking about, I was saying X, Y, and Z. The national media doesn't have to be quite that careful. They don't have to kind of check themselves. And because they do talk about Boston sports a lot, I think that can kind of, then kind of infiltrate into like, oh, Boston sports media is so tough. I happen to agree with you. I think, especially like, I mean, I can't speak for the other beats in Boston. I haven't been on them, but like the Celtics beat is largely like very fair. They get asked questions that are like, hey, like, this is a thing that happened. Can you talk to us about that, please? Can we get your take on it? I think that's how it's usually framed. And I think that's a very fair framing of just about any topic, is like, here's something that people are talking about. We want to come to you and give you a chance to respond to it. That's how things usually seem to go. And, I think, the national media thing does seem to affect certain guys more, right? Obviously it affected Kyrie and continues to affect Kyrie and will always affect Kyrie. Tatum and Jaylen have done a pretty good job, I think, of brushing it off generally. But yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with you. I think Boston media is kind of overhyped as this like, it's like a real grinder. And it's like, it's mostly just kind of them getting asked, very reasonable questions they probably would have gotten asked anywhere else too.
Yeah, I think Boston Celtics local media, I don't think there's a ton. I mean, I think I ask some questions that maybe, I have asked some questions that I know rubbed some guys the wrong way.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. But also I kind of asked that when they were mediocre. Like, I think I ask appropriate questions. Like, you guys keep saying this, but it's not happening. Why? And I think that's a fair question in some, but if that's a question that's going to drive a guy out of town, Jesus Christ, like then that's not a guy you want on your team. Because if that question's going to get this guy like all upset, then you're not tough enough to get through whatever Draymond Green is saying to you on the floor, because that's like 100 times worse.
Right.
So
you weren't out there yelling at Grant Williams, oh, you're a fan. He's a fan.
Yeah, right. Like, I mean, that's Draymond says some really harsh stuff.
Yeah, he does.
But I think, look, different guys have different reasons to stick around and not stick around. All you can do as a team is build a good place to work, just like anything else. It's really just like anything else. You build a good place to work, people will want to work there. Yeah. And if other extraneous stuff comes up, you can deal with it. Yeah. I think the Celtics build good places to work. Like, I haven't seen any, like Brad Stevens, Ime Udoka, those guys are like, they're, whatever toughness there is, it's direct, but it's also like, I think everybody understands, like, everything's meant the right way. This is a good organization. So I'm not worried. If Jaylen decides to leave, then it's because of other personal things. And there's nothing you can do about that. But you can't say, we're bringing in Collins, we're bringing in Dejounte Murray just in case. You're building a team now. This Celtics team is built to win now. And you got to build appropriately, and the correct way to build around this team is on the periphery, building out that bench, giving these guys some support.
Yep.
And that's that. Let's finish up with a fun question. Philip O'Connor asked a couple of questions. If the Celtics need veteran scoring and playmaking off the bench, why not bring back Isaiah Thomas? It's just not going to happen.
It's not going to happen, man.
I think we need to get rid of the questions about any former players. Isaiah's not happening. Kemba's not happening. Terry Rozier is probably not happening.
I'm waiting.
I'm sorry. I know we love former players. We got questions about Josh Richardson. Probably not happening. If the Celtics have let a guy go, it's probably because they're like fine with him going. And
I have one potential exception. Potential exception, and it's a guy I've seen on Twitter a few times, and I think it's an interesting one. Kelly Olynyk is kind of interesting to me, like as a
that's been long enough where maybe I can see it.
The statute of limitations is passed, and
but you've got to have it's got to fit you and now, I will say that if a guy can go in one circumstance and come back in a different one, but look, Isaiah, we just got to get past Isaiah.
Yep.
All right, let's finish on a fun note here.
I was gonna say, is that your fun one? Damn.
No. Here's the fun note. Will Robert Williams ever take a 3-pointer in the NBA? Like a legitimate spot up catch, and I'm open. I'm shooting this 3.
Okay, so not a heave.
Not a like Jayson Tatum is triple teamed with a second left, and he's just like here, and he has to take the 3. The ball works around. There's the potential to make a pass or do something else. Will Robert Williams, and now he just asked a simple question. I'm adding these parameters.
Okay.
Will Robert Williams ever take like a legitimate, because I think the other stuff, of course he will at some point take a heave or end of clock thing. The odds are that he will, but will he ever take a real one?
Okay. I'm gonna look up a stat. Let me hear your answer first while I look up a stat real quick.
My answer is yes.
Okay.
Because of course Rob will do that. I mean, at some point, he's already started to take jumpers, right? He's already started to take those 15-footers. At some point, he's going to start feeling himself. He'll be the guy who's like making a bunch in practice. It's going to be he's left wide open and be like, you know what? And it's going to be maybe up 20. It's, maybe the situation is right where it's like, you know what? Hell with it. I'm taking this. Maybe that flies in the face of the parameters that I'm saying, because I'm trying to say like a legitimate catch and shoot 3-pointer. I do think that Rob has a nice enough touch. Why not? At some point in his career, and he's still young, yeah, let it fly, baby.
All right. So I really want the answer to be yes. I kind of think the answer might be no, because like his jumper isn't pretty. However, consider this: 89.3% from the free throw line in the playoffs. Free throws can be kind of an indicator of 3-point range. They are an indicator of touch. They're an indicator that you can, kind of put the ball up in a shooting form type way and throw it at the basket. So I am going to go yes, even though I'm kind of hedging a little bit by saying that I kind of think the answer is no, but I want the answer to be yes, and so I'm sticking with yes. Yes is my answer.
Hey, if there's anything that we can do on this podcast, it's speak things into existence.
We can, either that or... Well, yeah, I don't know what I just did. Did I speak it into existence that he does take a 3 or that he never does?
Yes, he's taking a 3.
Okay. Because KCP is not a Celtic. I don't know if you noticed that.
Well, stop using logic on me, Tom.
Okay, all right, yeah.
We're speaking things into existence. We speak something into existence.
Something is gonna happen.
Whatever. Just take a 3. God damn it. Take a 3-pointer, Rob.
Shoot a 3, you coward.
Shoot a 3, you coward. Did you look it up? Has he taken any ever?
It does not look like it because it's all 0.0s. There's not a single 0. Oh, wait. Okay, so no, there is a 0.1 here in the playoffs of 2021-22. So it looks like he took 1 in the playoffs. Hang on, let me look at the totals.
3 career 3-pointers.
I'm looking at the totals right now. It looks like
totals. He took 2. He took He took one this season.
He took 2 in the playoffs. One this year and one in 2019-20.
That had to be a heave. Those had to be heaves.
Definitely.
I don't remember any of these. He's taken 3. He took 1 this season. He took 2 last season.
Yeah.
I don't remember them.
So he has taken 5 total NBA 3-pointers.
Yeah. But none of them were like, oh my God, he's spotting up.
Right. 25 for freaking 28 from the free throw line this last playoffs. Pretty good, man.
It's pretty good, man.
Pretty good.
Kid can shoot.
Yeah.
All right, man. Let's wrap it up. We shaved 5 minutes off of our previous record, and I didn't even have to ask that Robert Williams question. That's totally on me going into 40 minutes. So, thanks for hopping on, Tom. Free agency. Oh my God, free agency happens like Thursday at 6 or something.
Yeah,
weird time.
6 p.m. 6 p.m. Eastern time.
So, let's set those fireworks off. Tom_NBA. Thanks for hopping on.
Appreciate you.
That's it for the show. I'm John_Karalis on Twitter. Big free agency day, so tomorrow's show could be fun. I don't know what the Celtics are going to do. This is going to be a weird free agency, I think, a weird one. So subscribe to the show. If you're here at this point and you haven't subscribed to the show, then you must love it because you've stuck around for 40 minutes, and you might as well subscribe at this point. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Show is on YouTube. You can watch a show on YouTube. If you just like to watch, pop it on your TV, stream it while you're doing your or pop it in a YouTube tab in your background while you work. Whatever you want to do. If you are a subscriber, just ask that you share the podcast, spread the word, tell your friends, tell everybody that they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network.